Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a Network 216 production of the Faithful Dogs podcast. I am Tyler Johnson, joined by the best homage ad reader in the business, Mr. Jack Robinson. Jack, how you doing tonight, my man?
I'm doing good, man. How's it going?
Not too bad. Really wish we could keep like the 60 to 70 degree days instead of
Yeah,
going back to snow and going back to the 30s. Like, I don't know. I mean, we're at the end of March here and we're still dealing with this, dude. But you know what?
it's Ohio.
Other than that, I'm doing all right because you know why? March Madness starts tomorrow.
Yes,
So,
sir.
absolutely pumped for that. But there's a lot to talk about, man. We're going to get down to all of that here shortly. Before we do, guys, as a reminder, take that quick second, drop that like on that video. Subscribe if you are brand new to Network 216, as we are less than 450 subscribers away from our goal of reaching 3,000. So really helps the channel, really helps the network if you guys could subscribe to the channel. And just keep in mind also, liking the video really helps push and grow the audience overall. So again, like and subscribe if you are brand new to what we do. Jack, the Browns made a very bold move yesterday, and Andrew Berry's not afraid to make a bold move. We have realized that throughout his time as general manager of the Browns. But this move, I'm not going to say surprise people that it happened, more so just the money that was committed. So the Browns extended wide receiver Jerry Jeudy, who they just acquired from the Denver Broncos in a trade. The reason that this was surprising to people is the money aspect of things. So it's a 3-year contract extension worth up to $58 million. And like I mentioned on Twitter, we need to understand what worth up to means. That means there's a lot of incentives that are based off of that, but it does include $41 million in fully guaranteed at signing. Before we kind of break this down a little bit more, when you initially saw this, what were your thoughts?
I was a bit confused just like when I first saw it, obviously, because then you see the number, you see 58 million for 3 years. And I think that me, like a lot of other people, were just like, it seems kind of I guess premature to be extending him before you ever really get to see him play in the offensive system that you want to, put that they're installing the season. And, especially because you didn't give up that much to get him, and you want to be flexible with your cap, and you want to be able to kind of see what he's going to turn out to be, and not, you don't want to tie yourself into it. I think a lot of us saw it as a low risk, high reward play where they get to kind of have a year of him, see how he does, and then have like a good head start to be able to re-sign him. So I was surprised, that they had done it just so immediately. Like, just 1 week we get him on the team, and then the next week he's signed to a long-term deal. As I look at it more, obviously I wasn't really as surprised that he got signed as much as it was just like, the kind of just out of nowhere it happening. But I mean, I wasn't super surprised that he got extended. I was just surprised that he got extended so early for the most part. But the money aspect wasn't really that big a deal because it's only 41 million guaranteed, and when you look at it in terms of like adding on to his 5th-year option and things like that, it's a pretty standard wide receiver salary for a player of his caliber.
Yeah, and I think what we need to keep in mind, like, look at Jack Duffin had a great tweet. Look at what the Colts just gave Michael Pittman,
Mm-hmm.
and the numbers that Michael Pittman Jr. and the numbers that Jeudy has compared to Pittman are
They're
very
very
similar.
close.
And let's keep in mind something here. I'm not saying Michael Pittman Jr. has had good quarterbacks by any means, but Jerry Jeudy hasn't at all.
No.
And he made a good point because people brought it up. Um, Jerry Jeudy's never posted 1,000 yards, but the 1 year that he came the closest, he missed multiple games.
Yeah.
And there is a certain radio host in Cleveland that said, well, if you're a good receiver, you should post 1,000 yards in 8 games. That was said on actual mainstream radio. Yeah, just
I mean, of
absolute
course.
ridiculous. Unless you're tired. Okay. Anyway, because that's just we could talk about that idiotic comment all day, but we're not going to. The reality is you are essentially what you're doing, Jack, with this deal. And I tried to say it yesterday to people because there are a lot of people still that just think this is stupid. Um, you're he's doing the same thing he did with David Njoku. He's getting out ahead of what
Mhm.
potentially could happen.
Right.
And when you look at this, the money that is going to Jerry Jeudy, which is in the 14 to 17 million dollar a year range. Let's say, Jack, Jerry Jeudy becomes who Andrew Berry clearly thinks he's going to become.
Mhm.
Okay, because let's get something straight here. Andrew Berry loves Jerry Jeudy.
He's
It's
loved
very
Jerry
much
Judy.
apparent.
He's
Like he
loved
has
him.
wanted this guy for a while. Okay, if he's the guy that Andrew Berry thinks he is, this is a bargain. This is a bargain either midway through this year or next season at the earliest, because look at who's going to be hitting the free agent market or getting big paydays. Justin Jefferson, my apologies. Brandon Ayuk, not Michael Pittman Jr., but T. Higgins is going to be for sure on the market. Jamar Chase is going to be getting a new contract. Andrew Berry's trying to get ahead of that, because if Jerry Jeudy has the breakout season, you're talking 25 million. So that's a lot more right there. And this is what I tried to tell people, Jack. You weren't going to let all three receivers hit free agency at once.
Yeah.
You weren't going to let Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, and Jerry Jeudy hit free agency at once. You just weren't.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things is that even if we don't look at like the top guys, like obviously, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, these are guys who are going to, command and kind of, especially like some of those other guys, they're going to really set the market. Like, I mean, Justin Jefferson, he's going to set the market. Jamar Chase, he's going to set the market. Like these guys are going to get insanely massive paydays. That I mean, obviously, I don't think a guy like Jerry Jeudy, he's in that echelon. But I mean, even if we're looking at recent history, I mean, look at a guy like Mike Williams, a guy who's, he's 31 injury history and he still gets 15 million. Christian Kirk last season, I mean, he commanded 20 million a year. I mean, the simple fact is that the price of wide receivers has gone up dramatically, even at the guys who are not at the top 5 elite level. So getting a guy like Jerry Jeudy, who I think obviously, Andrew Berry obviously loves this guy. He's loved him for a long time. Willie wanted him on the Browns for a long time. He's been in trade discussions for years at this point, with trying to get Jerry Jeudy onto the Browns. So being able to get a guy like him who he thinks has really high upside, being able to get him on the ground floor, really early on, and being able to get him signed to a contract that is right now, I mean, it's a standard wide receiver contract for a player of his caliber. And again, if he thinks that he can be a guy who can really turn into a number one wide receiver, I mean, do you think that if given the proper quarterback play and offense, that he could be as good or better than Christian Kirk? If so, then you have to say, I mean, Christian Kirk's getting 20 million. Mike Williams is getting 15 million for a year when he's injury prone and 31. It's like, that's just how the wide receiver market is. So getting him at this deal and for this many years right now is smart if you think that this guy is going to be someone who can be productive as a wide receiver on your football team for the whole contract, which is what I think Andrew Berry is looking at.
And keep in mind too, Jack, kind of like you said, Jerry Jeudy's 24.
Yeah,
this young. Guy's so young, man. Like, he hasn't even reached his potential. I understand. Listen, I understand people are okay. Like, let me understand something here. I get it. Okay. Could we have an Elijah Moore situation all over again? I still don't think Elijah Moore's a bad player. I think it's circumstances. Okay. And Jerry Jeudy has all the potential in the world here. He really does. You're a former first-round pick. And I know that sometimes you can overdraft guys. Jerry Jeudy was, by many, the consensus top receiver in that draft. Okay. But by talent-wise, everything said he was that guy. If this works out the way the Browns want, like in the way that they need it to, I'm gonna say it right here, and this is gonna really piss off some people. Amari Cooper's probably gone, because you have a guy in Amari Cooper, unless he has the year he had last, which he might. Okay, he might. Probably gone, because if Jerry Jeudy is a 1,000-yard receiver, you have your guy, you have your one, and then or what you do is you go big game hunting in free agency next year, because T. Higgins is Bengals either gonna have to trade T. Higgins or he's hitting free agency. There's no other way around it. And if T. Higgins hits free agency, I promise you, if Cooper is not on the Browns will go after T. Higgins. Okay. Yeah. You can mark that down right now. You can stamp this. You can come back and look at this next year. That will happen 100%. They will move money around. They will find a way to pair Jeudy and T. Higgins. But the reality is, man, like, you're in a situation, this guy's young. This is a former first round pick. The talent is there, and you got him for nothing. I don't know
Right.
how people can complain. It's not our money. Like, we didn't give him 20 million a year here. Like, you gave a guy what is wide receiver 2 money, high wide receiver 2 money, and potentially he could be your guy, your number 1 in the future. It just blows my mind how that would upset some people. I get it, it's a risk. He took a risk on David Njoku and it paid off. I'm taking this risk every time. I really am.
I think a lot of it has to do with just the way that it's reported and just the way that the numbers are shown. Is that a lot of people see 3 years 58? They don't see up to 58. It's actually like 14.75 million a year when you actually like add it up, and then you consider that like the 5th year option is also included in it, and like there's a whole lot of math that goes into this stuff that if people actually reported it the way that it actually is, it's actually a $41 million contract that if he hits these specific incentives, then it can get up to 51 million. But it really is just one of those things where it's a bunch of people who think that they understand the cap, they understand the economics of the league, and they try to like overextend into places where they simply just are not educated enough. I'm not educated on it either. But I
Mhm.
also don't go out there and then try to complain about how it well, why are we spending this money on this guy when I just don't know. So it's like I understand that people are upset about things like this because they just aren't informed. But again, trust me, Andrew Berry is a smart guy. He knows what he's doing. He's manipulated the cap wonderfully to this point. So I have no issue with any of the deals he makes because I know that he's doing it with every single year. I mean, he's doing this every single year he has planned out for probably the next 5, 6, 7 years of cap, and predicting how much cap is going to get added each year over the next and how much he can afford to put on a player's contract. He knows what he's doing. I'm not concerned at all.
Yeah, I'm not either. And listen, about Amari Cooper, I love Amari Cooper truly. And if he has
Mhm.
a year like he did last year, he good chance he gets extended. Okay.
Of
I'm
course.
just saying if that production does go down, I mean, let's say he gets at that like right at 1,000 or a little less. At that point, I think you got to make that tough move. I really do.
Well, and I'm
And
curious, like, sorry to cut you off. I'm
no,
curious,
you're
like,
fine.
like even if he does have a good season, like let's say again he has like a similar season, maybe not as efficient, just because you expect it to get spread around a little bit more with a guy like Jerry Judy. If he has a really good season, but T Higgins is a free agent, like let's say he doesn't, there's no long term thing where they're trying to figure out if they're going to trade him, if they're going to hold on to him or whatever, and he's a free agent. I don't think Andrew Berry would really hesitate to move off of Amari, even if he had a good season, because it's just like, do I want the younger guy who I think can do similar to Amari that I can have long term and not have to worry about his game, deteriorating? Because obviously Amari, he's not the oldest wide receiver in the league, but he's getting up there. He's getting towards 30 after this season. So I think it's just one of those things where even if he has a good season, I think it's just like logically you go for the younger option who has more upside, who you're probably going to have to pay similar money if you expect, Amari to have a good season. He's going to probably command a similar market to T Higgins, if not maybe a little bit less.
And to answer this thing, Chris, T. Higgins is not remotely close to a locker room problem like OBJ at all. T. Higgins doesn't cause issues. T. Higgins is not happy with the fact that the Bengals have made no attempt to extend him. And to be honest, considering he's got 2,000-yard seasons and still on a rookie deal, I would be pretty mad about that too. And the Bengals are known for not handling contract negotiations well. So I don't think T. Higgins is a problem whatsoever. And there's been no feedback given to the sort. He's unhappy with the situation. I think any of us would be.
He's
He's
unhappy with
getting
ownership
he's
because
getting
it's a
screwed.
cheap
He's
ownership.
getting screwed over.
He
That's
he
why he's
knows
unhappy.
T Higgins knows that he is a top wide receiver option right now that is being held back because one, obviously last year he had a rough time because Joe Burrow was hurt, but even when Joe Burrow is healthy, it's clear that Jamar Chase is the number one receiver there. I think T Higgins thinks that he could be a number one receiver in any other team in the league that isn't the Bengals, and he's probably right. And it's just the fact that he knows he's not going to get the money because the Bengals don't have enough liquid cash to be able to sign Jamar Chase and T Higgins and Joe Burrow at the same time. It's just not economically feasible for them. So
Yeah.
he knows it's basically he knows that at some point they're going to let him go, but he's almost being held hostage because of the way that the contracts in the NFL work for rookies. So
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, listen, man, that's the way I look at it. So the Browns did have made some moves recently, so we'll kind of just go over them. So they signed linebacker Devin Bush to a 1-year contract. Former first round pick of the Steelers, was actually considered by many to be the top linebacker in that class. They signed quarterback Tyler Huntley to a 1-year contract. It looks like they're gonna re-sign Rodney McLeod. Mary Kay Cabot said he's close to return. It doesn't sound like that's official though. They're bringing back James Prochet, wide receiver, punt return on 1-year contract. They also, as of today, they added running back Dante Foreman. Dante Foreman, of course, was with the Bears last year. Has kind of bounced around the league, has been a starter from time to time when needed. So, Jack, those are just some of the moves the Browns have made recently. I mean, listen, I'll get started, dude. The Foreman signing to me is awesome. I love that. I've always felt like he's such an underrated player. And this is someone that a lot of people thought was going to be out of the league a couple years ago.
mm-hmm.
He went to Carolina 2 years ago, had a renaissance of a career, and really carried that backfield at times. Chicago was a little bit of a mess, but keep in mind, I mean, yeah, Chicago is just a mess in general.
Yeah.
You're getting a guy that's going to play that Kareem Hunt type role. He's going to be your goal line type back. But more importantly, Jack, you have a guy that can carry the backfield until Nick Chubb gets back, because at this point we don't know Nick Chubb's stat. I mean, good chances he's going to miss a couple weeks into the season.
Yeah.
You have a guy that can carry the load for you.
Yeah, and I mean, even if it's not him carrying the load all by himself, obviously, I think that Jerome Ford is still going to get a lot of usage. I think it's more so, without Kareem Hunt coming back, I think that they didn't want to put all of the work onto Jerome. They also didn't want to, have to rely on Nyheim Hines because he's just a different type of back. And I think that D'Onta Foreman gives you a really solid piece. I think you could almost look at him a lot like how the Browns have I'm trying to think who was the back in 2018 before Nick Chubb took over.
Carlos Hyde.
Carlos Hyde. I see him like a Carlos Hyde type player, maybe not as good, because Carlos Hyde was really good at the time when we did get him on that team, and he played really well. I think that he kind of fulfills a similar role in that he's someone who's solid enough that he can get you basically decent production from the running back position. He's not going to be a liability or anything like that. And then obviously, with the other, guys in the backfield, you're going to be able to have a decent rotation. And then once Nick comes back, he'll be a nice change of pace back, just, so Nick's not out there all the time. So I think it's a perfect signing. I think it's not a huge signing that I think a lot of people were hoping for at the running back position, but that's not what the Browns really needed. They just need someone to come in there and just give you solid, consistent play. And I think that that's what D'Onta Foreman shows that he can do. He's done it for the past couple of years. Like you said, I thought a lot of people thought he was going to be out of the league. He's kind of really carved himself out a nice niche. It's just like, hey, you need a running back who can come in and give you decent production. I'm that guy. And I think that that's really all the Browns needed. So I think it's like the perfect signing for what they were looking for.
Oh yeah, exactly, man. And I think when you look at it too, his age, I mean, he's only had 552 career carries. It's not like he's been had to be. Now, again, you can translate that to a number of different things, but that said, he's going to provide really good depth for sure.
Yeah.
Now to kind of talk about the other two main, James Prochet, we don't know if he's going to make the roster or whatnot. That's a whole other thing. The draft will depend on that and some other things. I mean, he could be a practice squad guy. I mean, we'll see what happens there. But the other two that are very interesting, they bring in linebacker Devin Bush, former first-round pick. Shocker, Andrew Berry brought in a former first-round pick.
He loves them, dude. It doesn't matter.
What are your thoughts on signing Devin Bush? My thought is there are people that are worried about the linebacker room. They're not bringing him in to start. I mean, he's a rotation guy. He's going to have to make the roster out of camp. I don't think he has guaranteed money by any means, nor should he. I mean, to this point, outside of his rookie year in Pittsburgh, he's really kind of been a bust. I mean, let's call it what it is. You're hoping you can find something there. We'll see. But, I mean, what are your thoughts on it? For me, low risk, again, maybe there's a potential high reward there because he's still young, still a lot of potential. His dad used to play for the Browns too. So, what are your thoughts on that signing?
I wasn't particularly, enthralled or hated it or anything. It was just like, okay, yeah. I mean, they're just bringing in a guy to see if he can fit the roster spot. And I mean, it like you said, it's like it's mostly a depth signing. It's just hey, can this guy really kind of carve out a spot on the team? And that's going to be something that we're going to see obviously once we get towards camp and we start seeing actually how he's playing. But I mean, I think it's one of those things like you said, it's low risk, and maybe he gets a little bit of a boost, going from Seattle back to Cleveland, and you said like his dad played for the Browns, so it's just one of those things where if it works out, cool. If not, then it's like you didn't really lose that much. It's not really that big a deal. I think that if anything, you're just taking a shot on a first round pick, which is what Andrew Berry loves to do. So
I think
all power
I
to
think
him.
they're going to draft a linebacker. I
For
think
sure.
that's kind of.
I think that's that's going to be a priority for them.
Unless they trade for one or they sign I mean, listen, they could sign another free agent for all I know. I mean, we'll see. We'll see what they
There's a
have
lot of
planned.
time
I
left.
don't. Yeah, there's a lot. For people worried, there's a lot of time left, so I wouldn't worry too much. But the final move I want to break down, we got about 5 minutes to discuss this one, and there's a reason why I saved it for last because I feel like there's a decent discussion here. The Browns signed quarterback Tyler Huntley.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, originally people were worried about, well, did the Jameis Winston deal fall through? Well, no reason to worry about that. Signed today. Same thing. Same situation. Marquise Goodwin last year agreed to a deal, didn't sign until 3 weeks later. So no worry there. Jameis Winston's a Brown. Tyler Huntley, though, comes in. Tyler Huntley has been Lamar Jackson's backup, very mobile, great fit for what it looks like the Browns would want to do on offense, should there be, knock on wood, any type of injury, but we're going to hope and pray there's not.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this signing? For me, I see a situation, and listen, I could be very wrong. Andrew Berry traded Josh Dobbs for a 4th-round pick. Okay, they're going to see what happens in the preseason, and I very well think, either Tyler Huntley or Dorian Thompson-Robinson will get traded, one of the two, because it's unlikely you could cut DTR and put him back on the practice squad, and same with Tyler Huntley. So that's my thought with this. Not that you sign someone to trade him, but you can recuperate some value, some assets here by making a move like this. Tyler Huntley, man's a sneaky good pickup, and there could be teams that reach out about him.
Yeah, that's kind of exactly what I was thinking about when this happened. I was kind of confused at first. I was like, I like Tyler Huntley as a backup. I'm like, why is he signing Jameis and then going on getting Tyler Huntley when like both of them are very suitable backups, and you have DTR kind of as your 4th quarterback? I'm like, that's a lot of people. And then I'm sitting there, I'm like, I've played fantasy football before. I've picked up a bunch of guys just to try to trade them to people when they become valuable. And I think that's exactly what Andrew Berry is doing. That, and also just, they went through how many quarterbacks last year? I think that they know how valuable having a plethora of backup quarterbacks on call is. But I think that, we saw last season, Josh Dobbs got traded for a 4th. Injuries happen all over the league. I mean, last year, how many backup quarterbacks started games? Like it was like half the league was backup quarterbacks. So I think he knows that if he brings in a guy like Tyler Huntley, who has obviously experience, he's a Pro Bowler, a guy who can definitely step in and be a starting quarterback or a very, very good backup quarterback, that there's value in that, especially when, stuff happens in the preseason that teams don't expect and they have to kind of make a big pivot. So I think either it's, he's hoping for maybe a team gets desperate, says we really need the backup quarterback filled up, and they'll overpay for a backup like Tyler Huntley, or for some reason, the Browns maybe, get into the season and just want to have that kind of security. It's really a no lose situation, because, if it ends up being like, hey, we can't really keep him on the team, then you cut him, you kind of cut your losses there, and then you move on. But, just being this forward thinking and just like being like, hey, we're going to have all this security, all this, these security blankets. And then if situation comes up where we can trade him and get, recoup the cost by getting an asset that we can use in the draft or use to trade or something like that, I mean, that's just a win for Andrew Barrett, and we've seen him do it multiple times. So it's definitely not out of the question.
Yeah, dude. I mean, again, it's hard to hate a move like that. I know like the first thing is people worry about it, like well, how's Watson? Watson is throwing this week, like
Yeah.
light throwing, but he is back throwing. They're gonna be cautious with, like, they're not gonna rush him back. You have 4 quarterbacks for training camp, which, by the way, is very normal, especially when you get into preseason. It's just the smart thing to do, and I wouldn't worry about Watson's because some people have said him starting on the pup list. I wouldn't worry about that. Doesn't sound like that's gonna happen. We're knocking on wood, but it doesn't. It sounds like we're good there. So everyone just needs to calm down a little bit. This is Andrew Berry doing his due diligence and brought in a guy that I'm really surprised he didn't get a backup job because
I am too.
He's not great. Not great, but he is a solid NFL backup, especially with what he can do with his legs. So I love the signing, man.
Yeah, I was surprised that the Ravens didn't keep him because I feel like he just kind of fits their system so perfectly. He's been there for a long time. And I mean,
they draft somebody.
I'm sure they will draft somebody, but I just think it's one of those things where it's like, I mean, dude, you know how many times where sometimes I would go and watch a Ravens game like after the Browns had played or something, and or like Tyler Huntley would be in, and I swear to God, I would be like, is that Lamar or is that Tyler Huntley? Like, they look very similar, they play very similar. The way that, like, just even like the way that they look in their uniforms, like I can't tell the difference because they seriously play very, very similar. So I think it's like he was perfect in that system. I think he's going to be really good in this system if they end up using him. But just his value in terms of what he brings as a backup quarterback, I think is going to be really, really intriguing for a lot of teams who maybe want to have more security at that position.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Obviously we really like these last couple signings that the Browns have made. What we also really love, Jack, is anything at Homage.
That is so true because, I've been saying it all the time, but Homage has the best and most comfortable clothing in the land. And, I'm sure that you had some experience this weekend of getting some snow because, it's March in Ohio. So, of course, you have to be ready for snow. So the simple fact is that you need to have apparel for all weather conditions. It doesn't matter where you live in Ohio or what you're doing or what month it is because the weather can shift whenever it wants to. And Homage is the brand that you need to use because it has you covered and that you can rep your favorite teams, your pulp culture icons, or just your city in a plethora of different designs. They have great selection across their tees, their long sleeves, pullovers, hoodies. You're going to need all of them. And even, sweatpants and shorts, which I'm sure some people were wearing shorts on Saturday and sweatpants on Monday because that, again, the weather just decides to get cold at random. And I mean, the shirts, they're super breathable. You're wearing one right now, Tyler. I'm sure you can attest to that. I'm wearing one of their high quality sweaters, keeps me warm. I was wearing it outside with my dog, and trust me, I felt perfectly fine, even though it's like 30 degrees. And again, it's just the best place to go for all your apparel needs, no matter which weather condition or what, style you want. You can click the link in the description of our Twitter or in the description of the video on YouTube, and head over to Homage. Helps to support us at Faithful Dogs Podcast and at Network 216, and just get some good stuff because trust me, it's going to keep being cold and warm because we live in Ohio. So just go to Homage.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, like you said, Jack, go to homage.com. We really appreciate everyone that tuned into this episode of the show. As a reminder, guys, drop a like, subscribe if you are brand new to the channel. We're less than 500 subscribers away from our goal of 3,000. Really trying to get there as soon as possible. We can't do it without you guys. Again, drop a like, subscribe if you are brand new to what we do. Ohio State coverage, Cleveland Browns, Cleveland Guardians, Cleveland Cavaliers. We got it all for you. So, again, completely free to join us over here on the network. Thank you guys for tuning in. We will talk to you all next week. As always, baby, go Browns.
Like, comment, sub. Jack is a time traveler. How did he knew the exact contract? That's so weird.